And now we're going to be talking about specifically for spray foam insulation application. So the spray foam insulation can be installed just like anywhere else in the house, walls, roofs, ceiling, floors, and so forth. But it's a unique scenario, so therefore we're going to talk about it separately. So when dealing with an SPF installation, all of the previously described installation considerations still apply with some additional requirements. CCSPF, which stands for closed cell spray foam installation, is not required to fill the cavities of frame assemblies. If the installed thickness of insulation conforms to the compliance documentation, and if all framing is spraying to completely fill the cavity adjacent to and in contact with the framing to a distance of 2 inches away from the framing for OCSPF, which is open cell insulation, or filled to the thickness meeting ASTM testing as an air barrier. And this is an example of closed cell spray foam insulation. As you can see, it's not filling the whole cavity, but nonetheless, it will meet the standard for insulation and air barrier as well. For open cell spray foam insulation, it will completely fill cavities of 2x4 inch framing or less, and it will fill cavities greater than 2x4 inch framing dimensions to the thickness that meets the required R value used for compliance, provided that all framing is sprayed to completely fill the cavity adjacent to and in contact with the framing to a distance of 5.5 inches away from the framing for open cell SPF insulation, or filled to the thickness meeting ASTM testing as an air barrier. And that's an example of open cell spray foam insulation. You can see that it fills the whole cavity completely. For open cell spray foam insulation, the pressure on the foam insulation surface are not greater than 1 inch of the required thickness, provided these depressions do not exceed 10% of the surface area being insulated. So in the picture right here, you can see that would be a very bad installation. There's all kinds of depressions, all kinds of gaps, and it's definitely way over 10% of the surface. As a matter of fact, if you were just to look at that picture, about 100% of that surface is installed improperly. Closed cell spray foam installed as an air barrier shall be 2 inches in thickness. Open cell spray foam installed as an air barrier shall be a minimum of 5.5 inches in thickness. Alternatively, closed cell and open cell installation shall be installed at a thickness that meets an air permeance no greater than 0.02 as 75 Pascal pressure differential when tested in accordance to ASTM E2178 or ASTM E283. As HERS raters, you guys are not going to worry about the third bullet. Just keep in mind the first two, which is closed cell, 2 inches at least, open cell, at least 5.5 inches. In order to be considered an air barrier. Those are the main two standards that you'll see and verify as a HERS inspector. Also, SPF insulation shall be applied to provide an airtight envelope to the outdoors and between adjoining cavity surfaces of conditioned and unconditioned space, such as the attic, garage, and crawl space. Now, as far as the quality of installation of spray foam insulation, it shall be spray applied to fully adhere to assembly framing of wall, floor, ceiling, the joists, and other surfaces within the construction cavity. It shall fully adhere on and around plumbing, electrical, and any obstructions within the construction cavities. And when multiple layers of SPF materials are applied, each foam lift, which means each spray application, shall have adhesion and substrate foam interfaces. In addition, SPF shall be installed in conformance with the manufacturer's specifications, recommendations, and temperature humidity limitations. Substrates to which SPF insulation is applied shall be secure and free of surface moisture, frost, grease, oils, dirt, dust, or other contaminants that would adversely affect adhesion. Also, if values other than R5.8 per inch for closed cell and R3.6 per inch for open cell are used, the ICC Evaluation Service Report Number, ESR, will be documented on the CF2R EMV03. The spray foam insulation shall not exhibit areas that have voids or gaps in the uniformity of the insulation, are extremely soft or spongy, show the presence of a liquid, have blistering between lifts, show difference in coloration of adjacent foam layers, or indicate the presence of other materials between lifts. So if you notice any of these items in the actual spray foam insulation, you want to notate the fact that there is going to be a fail. SPF shall not be applied directly to recessed lighting fixtures and left exposed. So even though the recessed can lights are insulation contact, that does not apply to spray foam insulation. Spray foam insulation cannot be directly applied to recessed lighting fixtures, whether they are IC rated or not. Recessed light fixtures insulated with SPF insulation shall be protected from ignition by a combination of one or more of the following methods. Be covered with a minimum of 1.5 inches of mineral fiber insulation, or be enclosed in a box fabricated from 1/4 of an inch plywood, 18-inch gauge metal, 3/8 of an inch hardboard, or gypsum board. So basically they want to create a baffle that separates or keeps the spray foam away from the actual recessed can light. And the pictures on the left hand side shows examples of what some of those baffles might look like. For the roof, SPF insulation shall be applied to fully adhere to the substrate of the ceiling or roof deck. SPF insulation shall be applied to fully adhere to the joist and other framing faces to form a complete air seal within the construction cavity. In unvented attics, if the SPF insulation is located on the underside of the roof deck, it shall extend to the outer edge of the top plate. For gable ends, in unvented attics where SPF is applied directly to the underside of the roof deck, all gable end areas shall be insulated to the same R value as the walls as specified on the compliance documentation, or the CF1R. It is not necessary to place hard covers over drop ceilings and interior wall cavities in this situation. For HVAC platforms, a minimum of 3 inches of closed cell spray foam insulation or 5.3 inches of open cell spray foam insulation shall be placed below any platform or catwalk access ways installed in vented attics for HVAC equipment or other needs. The overall assembly R value shall meet the required R value specified in the compliance documentation, or CF1R. For the attic access itself, a minimum of 3 inches of closed cell or 5.3 inches of open cell insulation shall be applied to the access door, assuring good adhesion to the door surface. Alternatively, permanently attach rigid foam or bad insulation with adhesive or mechanical fasteners. The overall assembly R value shall meet the required value specified in the compliance documentation as previously described. And this is an example of a good installation of spray foam insulation. Obviously it's filling the whole wall cavity. There is no discoloration. So this would be a pass. This is an example of bad insulation or bad installation. You can see gaps on the side. You can see that the insulation itself is actually detaching from the framing. And you can see gaps are starting to form on the exterior sides of that cavity. This would be an example of good installation. And again, gaps, voids, discoloration, not even all the way around. It doesn't seem like it's filling the whole cavity. It's very uneven. So in this particular scenario, this would be a fail. This is a good example of spray foam insulation being used to insulate rim joists. And then last but not least, this is a very bad example of spray foam insulation. It looks like moisture got behind them. I mean, they opened up the walls. It was completely cracked. You can see there's mold. Looks like it behind it. So this is very much a worst case scenario type application, but definitely a no-go.